postmodern theory argues that we have arrived at a point in culture when everything that can be done has been done. All the songs have been written and sung, all the stories written and told, all the imagery used. All that's left for us to do now is sift through the rubble and wreckage of this culture, this bricolage, to give it its proper name and remake it and remix it into slightly different shapes. Think of culture as a giant hall of mirrors in which all we see are media text bouncing back reflections of other media texts. Who can say what's real and what's just another layer of illusion? That's hyperreality. Jean Baudrillard is the theorist of this idea. He argues that we live in a world of simulacra, a world where the distinction between the real and the constructed has all but dissolved. For evidence, look at Instagram with its heavily filtered and mediated window into people's lives, or think of so-called constructed reality shows such as Made in Chelsea or the Kardashians, or simply think about the way social media in general, with its proliferation of distortions and fake news, can warp our sense of the real. Indeed, what could be more postmodern than asking ChatGPT to explain the theory? So that's what I did. Baudrillard himself might have passed on to that big hyperreality in the sky in 2007, i.e. that's when he died, but I'm sure he'd be thrilled at the prospect of his ideas being explained by a computer program that is more human than humans. The question then becomes, how do we apply these ideas of hyperreality and simulacra to the Bridge or to Peaky Blinders? Well, one hallmark of the postmodern is its self-awareness, what we might call the meta-nature of the text that is, that turn to the audience and offer them a wink, aware of their own constructed nature. When it comes to the Bridge, think about those moments when Saga revels in what we could only call her own saganess. Think about when she takes her top off in the office or tries to engage Hannah in small talk, the way her eyes shoot around as she tries to process things. All could be seen as little knowing signs from the producers of the text. As a genre text, combining elements of the basic police procedural with the distinctive notes and style of the Nordic noir, we can see more evidence of hyperreality. I've never been to Sweden or Denmark, nor have I ever been part of the team, you might be surprised to learn, attempting to crack a highly complicated criminal case. And yet, through my experience of watching other Scandi dramas such as The Killing, as well as scores of police procedurals, I have a mediated sense of their reality. To support your understanding of this theory, be ready to talk in rich, close, analytical detail about how the show builds on the cultural knowledge of its audience. Remember, a highly sophisticated, highly media literate audience. After all, they are staying in on a Saturday night watching subtitled drama on BBC 4, which makes them sophisticated, not sad, honest. And the way the show constructs a stylised version of Sweden and Denmark, a main character who is constructed in the same iconic tradition as other great detectives such as Sherlock, and the way the show plays with the conventions of the crime drama. For example, how it chooses to introduce in such a slippery way the character of Henrik, not to mention the way the show, again in relation to Henrik and his family, blurs the reality between reality and fantasy. In short, The Bridge might not be as postmodern and knowing as something like Black Mirror, but in its own way, it is a totally knowing and self-aware show, and one that very much reflects Baudrillard's ideas.